Kusuzangpo students, welcome back to Bhutan e-learning program. This is commerce lesson for Key Stage 5, that is for classes 11 and 12. Students, I hope all of you are taking care of yourself and hope you all are doing something productive at home. Well, this is our third lesson for commerce, and today I will be taking you all through company, which is one of the forms of business organization. But before that, let us recollect whatever we have learned in our previous class. In our previous class, we discussed about forms of business organization, and under that, I talked about sole trader and partnership. Do you all remember? Okay, so for today, I will be talking about company, which is also one of the forms of business organization. We have company forms of business organization. You can see the boat of DHI here, which is one of the companies in our Bhutan. These are examples for various types of companies in our country. Now, before I actually start with our lesson, let me outline today's objective. Okay, students, at the end of this lesson, each one of you are expected to define company, explain the steps involved in formation of a company, explain various types of companies, give examples for all types of companies that are operating in Bhutan. Let us define company. Company is a voluntary association of persons formed to carry on a business for profit and registered under Companies Act. So it means company is formed by those interested people, those who are interested in carrying on business activities or economic activities to earn profit. And to be called as company, it should be registered under Companies Act of Bhutan. A company form of business organization is one of the popular form of largest scale production. It does not come into existence on its own. It is formed by the effort of the promoters. It is formed by whom? By the effort of the promoters. Now the question here is, what is the meaning of promoters? Promoter is the person who starts the business. So the company comes into existence when the promoter comes with an idea and when he actually starts the formation of company. And then it has several stages. Formation of company is not easy. The promoter need to follow those steps. So we will go through those steps one by one. Okay, now children, we have formation of a company. As I told you earlier, the promoter need to follow those stages. The first stage is promotion. Second, we have incorporation of company. Third, raising of capital, and then commencement of business. Don't worry, I'm going to explain one by one. So first, we will look at promotion. First stage, that is promotion. Now, promotion is the initial stage in the formation of a company. A person who takes the initiative of starting a company is called a promoter. So, the first stage is known as promotion, and that is the initial stage, and the person who takes that idea or who takes that initiative is known as promoter. It involves discovery of business opportunities. The promoter needs to discover about the business opportunities. If he is going to start the business, okay, what kind of business is he going to start? Carrying out the detailed investigation of proposed project, a detailed investigation on the resources, on the market, about the demand for the product, about the availability of resources for the finance. And then final one is planning the required finance. First one, he discovered the business opportunities. Secondly, he did the detailed investigation also. Now in the third process, what he need to do is he need to plan the finance, because finance is very important. Without finance, he can't do anything. Finance is like a blood in the body. I used to repeat this in all my lessons. Finance is very important. Let's look at what is incorporation now. Incorporation of company implies registration of company. Now when the promotion stage is done, now the next stage is the promoter need to register the company, and that registering part is known as incorporation. The promoter of the company must file necessary documents with the Registrar of Companies and pay prescribed registration fees as per the Companies Act. So here the promoter need to submit the documents and then he need to pay the registration fee according to Companies Act of Bhutan. Now here the question is, what are the documents to be submitted, isn't it? So for this, students, please refer your textbooks. What are the documents to be submitted under incorporation? Refer your textbook, or you can contact your subject teacher also, because if I explain all those documents here, we may not finish our lesson on time. And then, if the registrar is satisfied that all the requirements for incorporation have been compiled with, a certificate of incorporation is issued and the name of the company is registered. Meaning, if the registrar is satisfied with all your documents, meaning if you have submitted all the documents which are necessary, if you have fulfilled all the criteria, then you will be issued with certificate of incorporation and your name of the company will also be registered under Companies Act. And this is incorporation. Now children, after incorporation we have raising of capital. I always tell you capital finance is very important in business. So in the third stage is raising of capital. A public company raises fund from general public by selling its shares and securities. If it is a private company, okay, they can raise their fund from their close relatives or from their family members. But if it is a public company, they have to raise their finance from the public by selling their shares and by selling their securities. So for that, the promoter need to follow those steps. So first, what he need to do is, he need to issue prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus. There are two things here, prospectus and statement in lieu of prospectus. They are quite different. Let me first give you the meaning of prospectus. Prospectus is a document inviting general public to subscribe to the share capital of the company. And statement in lieu of prospectus is also a prospectus only, but it is a draft prospectus. And this is issued only to the registrar because these documents, I'm talking about statement in lieu of prospectus. This document is used if the public company does not raise capital from the public. If the public company is not raising capital from the public, then he need not issue the main prospectus. He will just submit the draft of the prospectus to the registrar. That's all. And if the company is raising capital from the people, then issuing prospectus is must. Okay. Then after this is appointment of bankers for underwriting of shares. Now in the second stage, what the promoter will do is, promoter will appoint a banker, to underwrite the shares. Now the question here is, what is underwriting of shares? Underwriting of shares. Okay. Underwriting of shares refers to signing a contract between the company and another party, that is underwriter, whereby in the event of, if the shares are not fully subscribed by the public, the underwriter agrees to take the remaining part. So that's why underwriting of shares is very important step. Next is appointment of brokers to float shares. Now in the third stage, the company or the promoter will appoint the brokers to float the shares, meaning to sell the shares to the people. Then listing of shares on stock exchange. Then they have to list the shares on the stock exchange market so that people will know what are the shares that are being sold by that particular company. And then finally, obtaining approval for issue of prospectus from MOEA, that is Ministry of Economic Affairs, and Royal Security Exchange of Bhutan Limited, they need to get the approval for the issue of prospectus. So with this, I'm done with raising of capital. Now, next stage is commencement of business, which is the final stage now. Commencement of business meaning starting the business. Student, I tell you, if it is a private company, the company need not go through this stage, because they can directly start their business right after incorporation, because they need not raise capital from the public, isn't it? That's why private company can directly start their business right after incorporation. But for public company, this stage is must. commencement of business. Under this stage, commencement of business is the final stage in the formation of company. A public company needs to obtain a certificate of commencement from the registrar of companies to commence its business. As I told you earlier, as a public company, they need to get the certificate of commencement, because they are raising funds from the public, isn't it? So that's why they need to fulfill some criteria, and then after fulfilling that criteria, they will get this certificate, so-called certificate of commencement. Okay, now I told you there is a condition to get the certificate. A certificate is obtained after meeting the minimum subscription of shares and obtaining trade license from the MOEA. In case the minimum subscription is not met by certain amount, the underwriter subscribes the remaining share to meet the requirements. Now students, listen carefully, okay? Here you need to know what is minimum subscription. Now minimum subscription is the minimum amount required by the company to meet the preliminary expenses. Now here you need to know again, what is preliminary expenses? Preliminary expenses are those expenses which the company needs in the initial stage of the formation of company. During that time, company really needs money, fund. Preliminary expenses. So to meet that preliminary expenses, minimum subscription is made. And then to get this certificate of commencement, the company should meet that minimum subscription. If the company is not able to meet that minimum subscription part, then the company will not get the certificate, and when they don't get the certificate, they cannot start the business. And then, in case, please remember, in case if the minimum subscription is not met by certain amount, then the underwriter will subscribe the remaining part, and then they will meet the requirements. Because underwriter, I told you, under raising of capital, he had already signed, isn't it? Saying that he will take the remaining part. So underwriter will take the remaining part, and then they will meet the requirements, and then they can start the business. But in case if the minimum subscription is not met by huge amount, or if the shares are not at all subscribed by the people, then it will be very difficult for the underwriter, to take all the shares. It will be impossible for him. That's why in these cases, they cannot meet the minimum subscription. And as I told you earlier, once the minimum subscription is not met, then they will not get the certificate for commencement. And then once they don't get that certificate, they cannot start the business. That's why under these stage, meeting the minimum subscription is very important. Then only they can commence the business. So with this student, I'm done with formation of company. Remember the 4 stages? First one, promotion, then we have incorporation, then we have raising of capital, and finally commencement of business. Or let's continue with types of companies. You know now formation of company, isn't it? Now there are various types of companies. I will take you through one by one. First one is based on incorporation. We have chartered companies, we have statutory companies, we have registered companies. And under liabilities, we have companies limited by shares, we have companies limited by guarantee, we have unlimited companies. And based on membership, we have private companies, we have public companies, and we have state-owned enterprises. Based on control, we have holding companies, we have subsidiary companies. And finally, under nationality, we have foreign companies, we have Buddhist companies, and we have multinational companies. Students, don't worry by looking at the diagram here. I will take you through one by one, okay? Okay, yes. Now, first one is based on incorporation. I told you there are various types under these. First one, we have chartered companies. These type of company is created by royal charter. These type of companies known as chartered companies is created by royal charter. Royal charter meaning, order from the king. In Dzongkha we say kasho, isn't it? So these type of company is started with order from the king. For example, Bank of Bhutan Limited, established in 1968, is the first chartered company in Bhutan. And Duke Holding and Investment Limited is another example of chartered company in our country. These companies are started with the order from our king. Okay, next one is statutory companies. Now, statutory companies are formed under special act passed in the Parliament of Bhutan. These type of companies are formed with the act passed by the Parliament, by the government. If the Parliament pass any act on forming of a company, then that type of company is known as statutory companies. Example, we have State Mining Corporation Limited, Royal Bhutan Helicopter Services Limited, Rural Enterprise Development Corporation Limited are some of the examples that are operating in our country. Next is we have registered company. These companies come into existence after having incorporated under the Companies Act of Bhutan 2016. So, registered companies are those companies which are registered under Companies Act of Bhutan 2016. All those companies which are registered under our Companies Act, those companies are known as registered company. Example, Bhutan Power Corporation Limited, State Mining Corporation Limited, Thimphu Tech Park Limited, Dukia Corporation Limited, Bhutan Telecom Limited. These are all registered companies that are operating in our country. Now, next one is based on liability. Based on liability, we have companies limited by shares. These companies in which the liability of the shareholder is limited to the extent of unpaid value of shares held by them. Those types of companies where the liability of the shareholder is limited up to the unpaid value of the shares held by that person. Okay, for example, you are the shareholder of BOB and you are holding the shares for, let's say, 50,000, and then you paid 30,000 and the remaining unpaid part is 20,000, then you are liable for that unpaid part only. For only that 20,000 which is not paid, you are liable only for that. That kind of company is known as company limited by shares. Most of the companies in our country are these type of companies limited by shares. Next one is companies limited by guarantee. Companies limited by guarantee. These are the companies in which the liability of the shareholder is limited to the extent of amount guaranteed to be contributed in the event of winding up of the companies. These companies are not as popular as companies limited by shares. This type of company is not really popular in our country. Company limited by guarantee, meaning the liability of the shareholder is limited up to the amount that he or she has guaranteed to pay at the time of winding up of the company, meaning during the liquidation time, during the winding up of the company, if the person has agreed to pay a certain amount, then he or she is liable only up to that guaranteed part. Next one is unlimited companies. Unlimited companies, with the word unlimited, you can get the meaning. In these type of companies, there is no limit on the liabilities of the shareholders. In case of the liquidation, the shareholders have to even pay from their personal assets to cover the liabilities of the company. In Bhutan, such company does not exist. In our country, we don't have this kind of company because these kind of companies are companies where the liability of the shareholders are unlimited. There is no limit for your liability. You have to pay beyond your investment. And then next is we have company based on membership. Under that we have private companies. According to Companies Act of Bhutan 2016, a private company means a company which is not permitted to offer its shares to the public. So, if it is a private company, you are not allowed to sell your shares to the people, to the public. You cannot sell your shares to the public. You can only sell your shares to your family members. Okay? And then it shall have at least 2 directors. Yes, to be called as private company, there should be at least 2 directors. The name of the private company shall end with the word private limited. The private company's name, it should be ended with private limited. Also abbreviated as PVT, Private Limited Ltd. Okay, next one is public companies. A Companies Act of Bhutan 2016 states that a public company is authorized by its article to offer its shares or other securities to the public. Public company are those companies who can sell their shares or sell their securities to the people to raise fund. That is the unique feature of public company. They can sell their securities to the people, they can sell their shares to the people, and then they can raise fund from the public. Next one is state-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises are the companies which are owned and controlled by the state. State meaning government. The DHI-owned companies such as Bhutan Power Corporation Limited, Duke Air Corporation Limited, Natural Resources Development Corporation Limited are few examples in Bhutan. These are the few examples of state-owned enterprises because they are controlled and owned by state. So students, these are the three types of companies under membership, based on membership. Next one is based on control. Okay, based on control, we have holding companies first. Holding company is a company deemed to be a holding company of another by virtue of later being its subsidiary company. For example, okay, let's say there is company A and B. If company A holds majority shares of the company B, then company A is said to be holding company. Because company A is holding majority shares of company B. That's why company A is said to be holding company. And company B is said to be subsidiary company. Example, the holding company does not engage in operation of the subsidiaries. The holding company will not engage in the operation of the subsidiary company, but they will hold major part of the shares. Best example, DHI is the holding company. And other companies under DHI, they are subsidiary companies. Okay, subsidiary companies. Subsidiary companies are the companies owned and controlled by the holding company. I already told you, company A and B. A is holding company because A holds the majority share capital of B. That's why B is subsidiary company. Example, Bank of Bhutan Limited, State Trading Corporation of Bhutan Limited, Dungsam Cement Corporation Limited, Woodcraft Center Limited are some of the subsidiary companies of Duke Holding Investment. Duke Holding Investment, holding, and other examples are subsidiary. Are you clear? Based on control. Types of company based on control. Holding company and subsidiary companies. Okay, now based on nationality, we have three types again. We have foreign companies, we have Business companies, we have multinational companies. First, let's look at what is foreign companies. The companies which are incorporated outside Bhutan but operating in Bhutan through their branches and agencies are called as foreign companies. Those companies which are incorporated outside. Now you know the meaning of incorporation. Incorporated outside meaning it is started outside. The head office is outside, but the business is operating in Bhutan through its branches, through its agencies. So these type of companies are known as foreign companies. Example, Jayaprakash Associate Limited, Gamon India Limited which are involved in hydropower construction are some of the foreign companies operating in Bhutan. Those companies, they are known as foreign companies because actually they are incorporated outside, but they are, their business is also being carried on in our country. Next one is Business company, very simple. Those companies, see, the companies which are incorporated under the Companies Act of Bhutan 2016, those companies which are all registered or which are all started, incorporated in our country itself, then those kind of companies are known as Business companies. Example, Bhutan Telecom Limited, Dungsam Cement Corporation Limited, these are the example of Business companies because they are incorporated inside our country only. Next one is multinational companies. In short, we can say MNC. These type of companies operates in more than one country. The head office can be in one country, but it will be operated in other parts of the world. They carry out economic activities in many countries. It can be incorporated in one country, but it will be carried on in other countries. For example, we have Coca-Cola, Taj Tashi, Amoncora. These are all multinational companies because they are incorporated outside or they are incorporated in one country, but they are their business is being carried out in other parts of the world. With this, I am done with today's lesson. But before I give you this activity to explore yourself, let me recollect whatever we have learned today. Firstly, I gave you the meaning for company. Do you all remember? Yes. Then after that, I talked about formation of company, steps under formation of company. First step we have is promotion, then we have incorporation, and then we have raising of capital, and finally we have commencement of business. And then we went through types of companies. Under types of companies, we have company based on incorporation, company based on liabilities, companies based on membership, companies based on control, and companies based on nationality. So these are the things that we discussed today. Please explore yourself with this activity. You are planning for a public company proposal. Okay, imagine yourself as a planner right now, as a promoter. You are planning for a public company proposal to be compiled under Companies Act of Bhutan 2016. Carefully plan and write the steps you would take before you commence your business. Now you have to carefully plan the steps that you will take before you commence your business. And then students, once you are done with this activity, you can send for the correction to your respective teachers, okay, through email or through Google Classroom or through any other apps that you are comfortable with, or you can directly mail me also at tsering.dema@education.gov.bt. Okay students, with this I'll sign off for today. Thank you for attending this lesson, and I will see you all in my next lesson.